welcome to Cooking with the Keefes. I'm Patrick Keefe.
I'm Jen Keefe.
And we're cooking for you today.
Yes, we are. And what's the theme?
Well, it's Valentine's theme, honey, my dear. We got so inspired last year when the Hinojosa family did a Valentine-themed Thanksgiving. We thought this year we'd bring it to you. So happy Valentine's Day coming up soon. And if you watch this after Valentine's Day, of course, you can make this meal at home. So Jen and I are going to be making a Valentine's-themed meal, something that we think that you could make at home. And it's something that would be delicious, something that's simple, and something that is decadent and a little spicy.
There you go.
So
a little spice.
Yeah, a little spice, right? When I think of Valentine's Day, you know, so we're gonna, the dish I want to make is gonna, like I said, has a little bit of decadence in it. But I also understand that it's not easy to spend a lot of money on a meal. So I wanted to find ways to make this something that you can make at home, and it wouldn't cost you too much. Also, the ingredients I wanted to use, mentioning it's Valentine's, I wanted to use some of those aphrodisiacs. Ooh. So that we can get everyone nice and excited for their Valentine. So we're going to have a little spice, we're going to have a little coffee, and we're also going to have a little sweetness. So we're going to be making a filet mignon surf and turf with 1620 shrimp. We're going to be doing it with smashed potatoes, and we're also going to be doing that with a little bit of roasted asparagus. But what I did to try and help out and make this so that it's not super expensive is we're using filet tails. So instead of having that big restaurant cut 8 or 10 ounce filet, we just got the tail ends, which are going to be very nice, but they're going to be a little bit less expensive. And they're just 4 ounce fillets. And I did a little bit of a smaller shrimp, something that will go well and make that surf and turf. And a little goes a long way. So we're going to make the crust. And on that crust is going to be a mixture of many ingredients. Most predominantly, you're going to see a little bit of coffee on that crust. So what I did was I got some espresso, instant espresso, which actually Jen really likes to use in a lot of her baking. It has a cocoa-like flavor, so it's not going to be super bitter, but it's going to lend itself well to the meat, and it's going to flavor it really well. So this crust you can make for pork chops, you can make for steak, you can make for chicken, you can make for a lot of denser cuts of meat, even really thick cuts of fish like tuna or swordfish. Mm-hmm. This crust goes really well with. So we're going to have a little instant espresso. We have a little bit of kosher salt, a little bit of white sugar. We have some chili powder, some smoked paprika, some garlic salt, and we also have some pink peppercorns, which are also called Szechuan peppercorns. And just a little bit of a tidbit of information. These have, if you have a nut allergy, sometimes you can be sensitive to pink peppercorns. They actually belong in that tree nut family. So I'm going to take all these spices together. I'm just going to put them in a bowl, and I'm going to mash them up a little bit. You can do it by hand, or if you need to, you can just you can even, if you had a mortar and pestle, that will work. But you don't really need to smash the peppercorns too much because they're going to break up in the pan. And I didn't put a lot, but those peppercorns are going to add definitely a nice kick. And this is a thick piece of meat, so having the crust just on the exterior isn't going to overpower it. All right, so we're going to leave that there, and we're going to get back to that in a second. All right, so we'll just pre-season the meat here. It's okay to get a little messy. And then we're just going to flip it over, pat on that. All right.
And you need this up on high for the stove?
Yeah, we're gonna. I'll talk about the pan sear, and you like to cook with me, hun. So you know the reasons why we use cast iron on meat, or we like using cast iron on meat, is because it really offers an even cooking. It holds the heat. It gets nice and warm, but the heat stays throughout, so you don't get these uneven spots of cooking on meat.
Evenly, and so it cooks nice and.
So this is, believe it or not, because that's only a 4 ounce filet, they're going to actually cook pretty quick. The shrimp cooks pretty quick, and then the potatoes, I wanted to kind of go over those a little bit. So just so you can see, we have the variations of potato. These are marbled baby potatoes. So you have Peruvian purple potatoes, you have little red bliss potatoes, and you have little Yukon yellow potatoes, Yukon gold. So they're sweet. They have a nice little unctuous, tasty flavor, and they're really nicely colored. So they're going to make your dish look like $1 million, and a little goes a long way. So I just wanted to show you what I do is I take these and I boil these in salted water until they're you can stick a fork through them and they're cooked pretty much throughout, but they're not turning into mashed. They're going to hold their texture. And then I take the back of a glass, or you can use, if you don't want to use glass, obviously in the commercial kitchen, I don't usually use glass, but in my home I will, and be safe. Or you can take a measuring cup or something like that, or something firm, and you can just press down on the potatoes. They'll snap a little bit, and they'll hold their texture and their size. And then I'm going to sear those in a pan so you have some nice, cool-looking potatoes to go with your surf and turf. And I love this one. I want to show you that one if you look in the camera.
The purple.
That's the Peruvian purple, which is a little bit more starchy, but it adds a lot of great color to your dish. So we'll do a few more of those. And this is the prep. This is where, when you're cooking at home and you want to impress your date or your wife or your family or your friends or whatever it may be, your significant other, you can do a lot of this ahead of time. These potatoes can be done ahead of time. The asparagus is super quick, and you can make a restaurant quality meal at home. So that's kind of
quickly, so that you're able to spend time with one another. You're not stuck in the kitchen.
Right.
Not that Pat and I don't spend most of our time in the kitchen.
A little time. So, I mean, that's going to be enough potatoes to serve 3 or 4 people. If you want more, of course, we have plenty more. But all you have to do is boil these in some salted water and cool them down in the refrigerator or cool them down on the counter, and they're going to be perfectly fine. So you got your beef getting ready, waiting. You got your potatoes pretty much done. You can do that ahead of time. And then I'll show you the prep on the asparagus. So asparagus is such a great vegetable. It tastes really good, and it's super simple. So this is a pencil asparagus, and depending on the season, you'll see different sizes in the store. Most stores carry what they call standard size or pencil. So this is right in between that pencil, obviously because of the size, it's pencil kind of size, and or standard might be just a little bit bigger. The jumbo asparagus you see in some of those restaurants, I actually don't love it that much because it can be woody. The stems can be very woody. And then it has the texture can be really stringy. So I don't like the jumbo as much. I prefer more of like a medium or standard size.
Anytime I go to the grocery store, I end up looking for the thinnest ones.
Right?
That's the ones I like. I feel like they're less stringy and
they take, and the way we're going to cook them,
they're like 2 seconds.
This is like the Keefes special. When people come over our house, they go, "How did you cook?" Everyone gets afraid. You boil it. Why does it taste so gross?
Yeah.
It's so good because it takes. This is going to take like 2 minutes to cook.
Yep.
And we'll talk about that in a second. But some people also ask, where do you trim it? It's expensive. We know usually a bunch is $3 or $4, but this is one bunch of asparagus, usually about $2.99. This is going to serve, 5, 6 people. So think about it. It's really for a side dish. You only need about that much per person. 5, 6 pieces, and you have a really a gourmet kind of side, and it really is not that expensive when you think about it. Yeah. And there's very little work to it. So cutting asparagus, people always wonder where do you cut. So you can look at it and see one rule of thumb is a lot of times you can snap it, and they say where it snaps is where you should cut it. That's where it's most tender above, and this is where it gets a little bit more woody. All right. So it's pretty consistent throughout. You can do that, and then you can say, all right, that's where they judged me to cut it. I'll kind of find a little happy medium, and I'll take that full bunch, and I'll measure right off to where it snapped, and I'll cut it. Just like that. All right? So we'll throw this stuff away, or you can reserve that for a stock or something. And then we're going to take this, and Jen, I think there was a baking pan.
Yep.
We're going to put that. I'm going to show you how simple it is. This is another thing that you can pre-set up in the pan. If you have a roasting pan or if you have a sheet tray, you can set it up just like this.
Yep.
So we're going to take that. We're going to get a little salt and pepper and a little olive oil, some cracked black pepper, a little bit of olive oil right over the top. And we'll take a little salt. Just going to mix it around a little bit with my hand. And then I'm going to take 1 clove of garlic, and I'm going to slice it super thin. And that clove is going to add some flavor, and it's going to cook as it roasts in the oven. So if you want to use chopped garlic, you certainly can. That'll work too, but this will go over that really well. and it's going to kind of infuse with the oil a little bit too, and that's going to flavor up that asparagus. So you have pretty much your entire dish right here. You buy at the store your shrimp that's already peeled and deveined. You got your asparagus, you have your potatoes, you have your filet, and then I'm going to show you how to make a nice pan sauce that's going to go really well with this dish. I mean, that's pretty easy, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to take the filet. Now Jen has a nice hot cast iron pan.
Very hot.
And that's been, yep, nice and high, good. Oh,
Yep.
Beautiful. We're just going to rub it with a little oil, and if you're not familiar with using, it's a lot of oil. Okay.
A lot
Turn it
of
off.
little.
It's going to smoke for a second.
Yeah. Turn it off.
Just going to pull it off. That was nice and hot, so that's okay. Control your heat. You can take things off the stove, on the stove. Don't get nervous. You're not going to overcook this filet.
And you want that sear. You want
Yes.
the sound.
All right. If you notice, I let these fillets sit out. Sometimes if you get beef in the store, they're in a cryovac. Okay? So we'll turn that on like a medium heat, huh? Okay?
Yep.
Then we're going to turn this one on. This one here, the back one here.
This one?
Yep. If you noticed, I put that meat on a tray and I let it sit out and I let it kind of air dry a little bit. And the reason I did that was because you want to pull that moisture away from the meat. You don't want it to be wet. You don't want it to be sitting in a plastic bag or whatever the container is. That's why when you go to a butcher shop, they have parchment paper or they use those little diapers that catch the moisture off the meat. Because what happens is if the beef is sitting in all its juice, it's gonna taste actually a little bit more irony, right? Because the blood's gonna just sit in it, and it's not gonna get a crust on the outside. So you want a crust, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a little smoky in here. Didn't put the fans on while we were cooking that beef, but as you can see, it is looking delicious. But what I like to do too is when these are in the pan, just to add a little extra flavor in the pan, I'll add a little fresh herb, and I'll even crush a piece of garlic. It's not going to go into the dish. It's just going to add some flavor while that meat's cooking. So we're just going to keep that. We flip those, and we're going to finish those for another minute or two on the other side. While we're doing that, we're going to get this pan hot. We won't set the alarm off this time.
Try not to.
Not that you have to tell anyone, guys. Come on. And then we're going to get the shrimp going. So, Hunt, if you can turn this one on too.
Yeah, sure.
We'll do it at the same time.
Sounds good.
You can turn them both high. It's all right.
Hi.
I
Are
feel
you sure?
I feel
I'm afraid.
confident. I know what we need to do here.
I don't
Right.
feel like I should turn anything
So
to high.
just again, you have those smashed potatoes. So they're already cooked, right? All you're gonna do is get a little crispiness on them. You're gonna add a little bit of olive oil in the pan. Same thing. I like to add that garlic, and it's just gonna flavor the oil a little bit. Just get a little heat. We'll let that go. Give that a second to let the pan get hot. And you'll see the oil will start to sizzle. The garlic will start to sizzle just a little bit.
So while we're waiting for the pan to heat up, I will talk a little bit about what I'm going to be making. So I'm doing a flourless chocolate cake, and that's generally something that you can get at any restaurant, at any time of year pretty much, but especially during Valentine's Day. So I'm doing it a little bit different, and I'm adding a meringue top swirled with dark chocolate. So it'll add a little bit of crispiness, it'll have a little bit of a marshmallowy type consistency in the center, and we're going to make that really quickly once Patrick's done with his dishes. I think the garlic is starting to sizzle a little bit over here, which means we're just about ready.
That's good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add those potatoes in, but I want to put a little bit of fresh thyme. We're going to use this in the shrimp and in the potato. Okay? So that's beautiful. We'll add the potatoes, and we'll just go spread those around. We just want to get them crispy. All right? So we'll move those around the pan.
They'll almost be like a French fry, nice and soft and mashed potato-y inside and crispy on the outside.
But the color, and it's also it's the, you know, it's not just the texture. You know, we talk about eating with our eyes, and this is going to be visually appealing.
Yep.
So we're going to add a little salt and pepper to this. Always want to season. Okay. A little fresh thyme right into the pan. That's going to season those up really well. So the beef looks great, and as you can see, it's going to be medium rare. We're just going to let that finish on that side. And then the key to eating steak is, you don't want to pull it out of a hot pan and put it right on a dish. You want to let it sit for another minute or two, or even 3 minutes. What happens is the juices actually suck back into the beef. So like a lot of meat, even turkey and chicken. That's why it's when you make that Thanksgiving turkey and you let it sit on the counter for a little bit before you eat it, the moisture kind of comes all back in. They call it reposing. So we got the hot pan here for the shrimp as well.
Yep.
So that's crispy. That's getting crispy. The shrimp's going to get going. It's really not that difficult. You can do all this very, very quickly. I'm just going to get that oil hot. And
do you have some tongs? I could flip the
I can flip with the potato. I can flip with the spoon.
Okay.
All right.
I have tongs too.
And you can see they're getting some nice color. Yeah. If you want to flip, honey, feel free to.
I can help.
All right. So that beef, if you're looking at it, we're going to turn that pan off. All right. Okay. So Jen, you can turn that pan off.
Yep.
And I'm going to add a little secret. What makes everything taste a little bit better. I'm just going to add a little butter right to the pan. All right. And that's going to give that beef a little bit more flavor. You can see that right there. Look at that. And all the herb that's in that pan is gonna get nice and flavorful right into that meat.
Yeah.
So the potatoes are getting crispy. The shrimp pan's going. We're gonna put this asparagus in the oven for about 2 minutes. If you have a broiler, you can put it right in a broiler.
Yep. I don't even turn the oven on when I make it.
Right. So you can put it right in the broiler, and you're gonna be nice there. So a little hot pan. A little olive oil. Depends on how many shrimp do you want. I mean, we got Andrew in the room over here. He might want to eat tonight. Jen might want a little bit more shrimp. Depends. I would say between 2 and 3 pieces of shrimp per portion. To go with the beef.
Yeah.
The beef is pretty much done. We turn the heat off there. We got a few shrimp here, and then we're going to add a little bit of that thyme right to the shrimp. We're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to that shrimp. And I don't want to overpower it, but I want to get a little bit of that crust flavor into the sauce I'm going to make for this shrimp. So I'm going to add just a little bit of that seasoning. Those potatoes, they look good, huh?
They look amazing.
And those can sit right in the pan right before we plate. So the asparagus is cooking. The beef, we're going to take the beef and we're going to let that sit. We're going to put this right, may I borrow those tongs?
You may.
We're going to let this beef sit right here. Off the heat, like I said, you're going to let it repose a little bit. Oh, make a little bit of a mess. We're going to pour that pan flavor right over the top. We'll set that pan aside. We'll get that out of the way.
Okay.
So the meat's going to sit there and wait. We have the shrimp. That's going to cook up very quickly. Shrimp cooks so quick. The potatoes are done, so we can turn the potatoes off.
Okay.
And what we're going to do with the shrimp is we're going to add a little chive, a little more garlic. I don't like to put the garlic in too early because if it browns, it gets bitter, and it's gonna really not taste so great. So we'll add a little garlic to the pan, a little chive to the pan. And I like to add white wine or lemon juice. So we have some fresh lemons here. I'm going to add just some fresh lemon right to that. Put that back on the heat. And you see they're curling up. I'm going to finish it with some chive. And then finish it with some butter. And this is going to be the sauce. It's going to go over the meat. It's going to go over the shrimp. And don't worry, it's okay. the butter's going to make everything taste good. We're going to add a little more salt and pepper to it. And we're going to take that off the heat so the butter kind of just melts in lightly. And it's going to go with the potatoes. So you let that sit there.
Perfect.
That's going to melt a little bit more. I think we might add a little more chive to it. I want to get a little of that onion flavor in there. Chive's really nice, light, mild. It has that oniony flavor. Probably need to season. And then we're going to plate. So, that asparagus should be good.
Let's take a look. Probably use a few more minutes, but
Yeah, another minute.
another minute.
All right, and we're ready to plate. So we have our crispy potatoes, we have our seared shrimp with a little bit of a lemon butter, and we have our filet. So we'll start with the potatoes. All right, and of course, so we want to get colorful. So we'll mix those up. Same here. And I got sorry about that. Get a nice purple one in there. All right. How's that asparagus here, dear?
It's cooking.
All right, we'll take that.
All right.
I'm going to put a fillet right over the top here. Nice. Asparagus should be a little tender. Okay. We'll put that like that.
All right.
You see the garlic got a little cook on there as well. There we go. And then the shrimp. So the shrimp is going to act as almost the sauce too, right, on top of the beef and the asparagus. Got a little bit of that. I said I'll give you three, Jen. How's that?
I'll have 3. Sounds
All right.
good.
And then I got a little bit of a couple hacks for you. Depends on how much you want to kick up this Valentine meal. So, everyone likes truffles, and they like truffles and the super umami flavor of them. They have a mushroomy flavor. Some think they taste a little dirty, but and I have some finishing salt.
They have an earthy flavor,
right,
not dirty.
So I love them, and I know you love them.
I do.
And this is why I'm putting
Yes.
it in the dish.
Yeah.
Right. So truffles are very expensive, so we are using more of a truffle seasoning, which you can get at all the grocery stores now. You can get them
Yeah.
at Whole Foods. You can get it at Trader Joe's. So we got a truffle seasoning. You can also do truffle oil. And I got finishing salt, which I would always put on my beef. Finishing salt's a really flaky, crystallized salt. Some brands are like Malden sea salt. All right, and we're going to put a little bit of that, so it's going to give it a salty flavor, but it's also going to add to that truffle. And those crystals are going to just kind of dissolve, but they get so much good flavor on the plate. So that's going to add to that. And then one more hack, because you want to really impress, right? You got to impress. Now, a lot of big steakhouses you go out to, and a lot of times you'll have a nice big piece of meat, and they add a lot of times crispy onions, which they have these industrial fry layers, and they bread the onion, and they throw them in there, and they're garnished. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a life hack, something easy at home.
Something quick.
A little crispy onion just on the side here to kind of go over the asparagus.
Adds texture.
These are French's. You might be used to them with green bean
beans.
casserole, which I hate. I like the onions. I hate the green bean casserole. It's the cream of mushroom soup I don't like in there. But that is our surf and turf for you and your loved one.
Yes.
And I hope you enjoyed. And Jen is going to make
Delicious.
an unbelievable dessert.
So this was by Patrick's request, actually. So while he cleans up his stuff, I'll start bringing my stuff over. And obviously, when you think Valentine's Day, you think chocolate. So we're doing a flourless chocolate cake. I have here, while he's cleaning up, I have 2/3 of a cup of bittersweet chocolate. The original recipe that I had found, I kind of doctored it and played with it, called for dark chocolate, but I really love this bittersweet chocolate. This is the brand that I use. I use the Ghirardelli brand. It's 60% cocoa. So not too sweet. You're already adding sugar and then the marshmallowy meringue on top, so you don't need any more sweetness. This is a good balance. So we're gonna go ahead and melt the 2/3 cup of those chips with 2/3 cup of the butter, and we're just gonna stick it in the microwave. So really quick, do 30 seconds. And when you're melting chocolate in the microwave, you wanna do it on little spurts. So start at 30 seconds to 45 seconds, check it, stir it, do it again. 30 seconds, then maybe 20 seconds, and go down from there just until it's just about melted. Then you can stir it the rest of the way. So we're gonna melt that together. This cake part of it, it's a twice baked cake. So we're gonna make the cake, bake that, mix up the meringue while we're baking the cake, and then go ahead and bake it again after we put the meringue on top. So again, this was Patrick's request. He said that I needed to make something that was like a flourless chocolate cake or a creme brulee. And like I said, when you think Valentine's Day, you always think chocolate. I probably would have went something red velvet, but that's just me. So,
I'm sorry. So I'm the chocolate kind of chocoholic
Yep.
at the house.
Yes, you
And
are.
I love the density of this cake. It's really rich and super flavorful. And I'm more of a brownie type person. So when she said flourless chocolate cake, I was like, that's awesome because it's going to be fudgy and gooey and not too, it's not going to be cakey.
Right.
So,
it's
which I
not.
really enjoy.
Yep. And this is something, actually, my son tried it for the first time, and he said, did you make that? I'm like, yes. He's like, it's the best thing I've ever had.
How did he say it?
He said, it's the best thing I ever had. So it means it must be good. So that's kind of where we're at.
Cooking with the Keefes. Maybe we'll have to bring him on.
He definitely would love to.
They'll
and
cancel
Adriana
us.
wants
They'll
to.
cancel us the next day.
So as you can see, this all came together really quickly. Less than a minute in the microwave, and you're good to go. And you just stir it. Make sure there's none of those chunks of the chips in there. Then we're going to go ahead and add in our sugar. And I already have that pre-measured over here. And we're going to put in, it's a 1/2 cup sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla. I always maybe put a little bit extra
She's
with
heavy
my
on the
vanilla. I'm always heavy on the vanilla. And then I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt.
I think people are getting hip with adding salt to
You
desserts.
have to. I've had quite a few people call me about their frosting and why doesn't my frosting taste like yours and why can't I make a really good buttercream? I'm like, you're not adding salt. You're using unsalted butter, then you're not seasoning it. You really need to balance it out, and that's why I think anytime someone has my buttercream or my baked goods, I always have a salty element. So now that's all mixed. That took 30 seconds. Then you're gonna add 2 eggs. Oh, I went too hard on that one. There we go.
That poor egg.
I got real violent with that guy. There's eggs right over there. If you'll grab me one extra egg, please. So you're gonna add 2 eggs into this. You're gonna whisk those in really quick.
1 egg?
I'll wait, just one.
Can you catch?
No. No, today is not our day on this show.
This is gonna be
Give
the
me
best bloopers. See what it's really like to be in the Keefe household.
All right, so there we go. There's our 2nd egg. We're just gonna go ahead and whisk that in.
Don't worry, I'll clean up after you do.
Yeah, thanks. Well, finally, shoes on the other foot. So there's that. And then, last thing you're gonna add is 1/3 cup Dutch cocoa. And the reason I'm very specific with the Dutch cocoa is because Dutch cocoa has been treated with like an alkaline wash. That's what it means to be Dutch processed. And what it does is it really tames the acidity of the chocolate, so you get a much more earthy flavor, and it makes a more fudgy consistency and makes your baked product a little bit more moist because it hangs on to the moisture. So when a recipe calls for Dutch versus natural or natural versus Dutch, you want to go ahead and listen to the instructions. Natural and Dutch cocoa will also play very differently with baking powder and baking soda. So
what happens if I just want to stick a spoon in there? And eat
yeah,
that?
right. So we're done. This is it. This is your dessert. And we're done with that.
Rocky said raw eggs are okay.
Yep. And then I've got here already prepped. This is an 8-inch cake pan. I've gone ahead and sprayed it with some Pam and put in a square of parchment. And we're just gonna dump that in there. You can see how dark and fudgy. And if you
It's so
notice,
good.
there is no flour in this recipe.
So is it gluten-free?
It is gluten-free without even
Whoa,
trying.
Fancy.
So this will also be great if you have someone in your life that has some dietary restrictions with flour and wheat and gluten.
Can I just have some chocolate chips over here?
You can do whatever you want.
They're
And
good.
there you go. And those are good. And the bittersweet, a lot of people, they go to semi-sweet for everything. I love, or milk chocolate, which I think is way too sweet. So this is it. That's done. You're going to stick this in the oven at 325 for 18 minutes. And that is that. I'm going to stick on Pat, count to 18 minutes.
18 minutes. Hold on, let me synchronize my watch.
Yeah, right? And
Got
then we're going to go ahead and scooch this and bring over our mixer. Try to do that without dropping it. In my mixing bowl, you can do this with a hand mixer too. You don't need to do a stand mixer if you don't have one. I just find it easier because we're going to drop our sugar in there really slowly. And I'll tell you why in a second. So 3 egg whites, room temp. Same thing with those eggs that I put into the cake. You want your eggs to be room temperature. They're just gonna mix much better and easier with your batter. And when you're doing whipped egg whites for a meringue, warm egg whites always froth up and mix up quicker. So here we go. We're gonna turn this on and we're gonna wait for our egg whites to get frothy. And I'm gonna put this to like medium or a level 8. On your
Oh,
mixer.
you had the egg whites already in there.
Egg whites are already in there, so I didn't have to
I
kill
wasn't sure
any
what was
extra
going on
eggs.
here. Thought she was faking it. They're real egg whites.
And then we're gonna get, there we go, 2/3 of a cup sugar. And we're gonna I'm gonna see if I can turn this so that we can get a better camera angle maybe, so you can kind of see what we're doing here. And we're gonna let those froth up and they start to look almost soapy. And they take a couple of seconds. Basically, in the amount of time it takes you to make the meringue, your cake will be baked part of the way. You're gonna dollop this on the top. We're gonna swirl it with dark chocolate and stick it back in the oven for 20-25 minutes. This cake is gonna be made best day of, so you could whip this out in the morning, leave it on the counter, and it's good to go after dinner. Or maybe the earliest I'd make it is the night before. So now that our egg whites are really frothy, we're going to add our sugar in a really slow stream. You do not want to put all of your sugar in at once because adding it really slowly is going to allow the sugar to dissolve in the egg whites. If you add your sugar in too quickly, your egg whites are not going to get to that really nice stiff peak. It's also going to make your meringue, if it ever does whip up, it's going to make it really crunchy and grainy, and you really want this meringue to be smooth and silky and marshmallowy. And you'll see we're going to get, this is actually how you would make meringue cookies or marshmallows from scratch, which are really super easy to make from scratch. And we're just going to add this in slowly and let it do its thing.
The sugar gets too heavy for the egg yolks. That's why you have to add so slow, right?
Yep, it gets too heavy, and again, you want to give the granules time to dissolve.
Right.
So that's how you get a really
That's the science.
nice. Yeah,
That's why she's good.
I know. I like the science part of it. I always worry about talking too much about it because other people find it boring, but that's why I like baking, and that's probably why I do better with the baking than the cooking, because I can't just throw it all in. I need to know the why. So I know this is going to take a few minutes to whip up. I'll show you another trick too, to swirl the chocolate into the cake. Patrick, do you want to pull over the finished cake so we can kind of show them what that's going to look like?
This is mine.
This is Patrick serving all to himself. There's a really dense fudgy cake under there. It's just a little thick, really thin. You don't need a lot of it.
That's the flourless chocolate cake.
Flourless chocolate cake. And then we're going to dollop the meringue on top. And then once we dollop that on, we'll swirl in the chocolate.
13 minutes.
We're at 13 minutes. All right. I'm kicking up the mixer.
We have 13 minutes
13 minutes left. All right.
Yes.
So we have some time. So this is going to come together pretty quickly. I've got almost all the sugar in there.
Wow, look at that.
And you can see that it's starting to get nice and glossy, which is what you want to see. You want it to be nice and shiny. And we're going to put a few other things in here to give it some flavor and also some stabilization. We're going to add in some vanilla and obviously some salt, a little bit of vinegar, and some cornstarch.
Oh, I was going to ask if you had cream of tartar.
No, no cream of tartar this time.
Is that something you add in a lot of meringues, though?
You do. You can add cream of tartar, and not a lot. You only need like a pinch to a quarter teaspoon, depending on how much you're making, and it does help stabilize the egg whites and keep them from falling once you've whipped them up. And we're just about, as you can see, I am adding this in super slow. I still got a good amount of sugar, but this will come together. And I like the balance of the chocolate with the meringue because you got something chocolatey, something vanilla. And we're almost done adding that in. I'm probably even going a little bit faster than I should because for the sake of television.
No, take your time. Looks good.
It is coming together.
I didn't know you were going to make, you didn't say you could make marshmallows. That could have been the dessert itself.
Homemade marshmallows, they're really easy.
Are you kidding me?
Maybe on the next show we'll do some homemade marshmallows, some coffee flavored ones.
You promise?
I won't make promises.
All right.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. If they even let us back. This might be the last cooking with the kids.
Oh no. Don't say they so.
All right, and I did the last little bit. And I'm gonna grab my other ingredients that we're gonna be adding in. This is just white vinegar, vanilla, and cornstarch. And a little bit of salt, which just a pinch. You don't have to measure it out if you don't want to. If you really want to measure, I would do 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm just gonna
pinch to save an inch.
Yep. And then some vanilla. Again, I'm always generous with it.
The most expensive ingredients. She has rich taste.
I do. Well, I mean, we're doing truffle and Maldon sea salt and shrimp and filet.
That's why it's Valentine's.
Yep. And do a teaspoon of vinegar.
What does the vinegar do?
Add some acidity.
All right. So the cornstarch, is that in place of cream of tartar?
Kind of, yeah. It adds a little bit of stability. And you're going to do 2 teaspoons of the cornstarch. And as you can see, if you're looking in the bowl, it's starting to almost look like marshmallow fluff. And that's the consistency. Actually, even firmer than marshmallow fluff is what you really want. And you don't want to go too quickly with it. We're going to turn this off and see where we're at. Where are you at with the cake, honey?
Cake is, you got about 11 minutes.
About 11 minutes, okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll probably take advantage of the magic of television in a second and come back when the cake is ready to put the meringue on top. But
if we come back and these 2 fillets are missing,
we can't
you'll
promise.
know why.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna whip. I just scrape the sides of my bowl, get all those other ingredients that may have flung to the sides in there. And I'm gonna give this another whip really quick. And I'm gonna show you what they're supposed to look like. They're gonna be super firm, You're going to be able to, we're going to do a test over Patrick's head. I'm going to turn the
No,
bowl
no.
upside down
Okay.
and make sure they don't fall out on your head. Is that
All
okay?
right. Hey. Hey, listen, we're
There's
doing
other
it.
way-
We're
there's
doing this for you.
There's other ways
all
to
right?
test it.
We are here to entertain you. But if I trust you.
Okay, well, you don't need to. I'll show you another way to check.
Okay.
So you just go ahead, I give it a little stir, and I pull it straight out.
Okay, hold on. Put it over my head.
Here we go.
That's
You
not
can
going to go
see-
anywhere.
Look at
Yeah.
that.
Let me see.
Here, I'll
That's love right there. No, that's
It
good.
won't, so if you turn the bowl upside down, nothing will come out. That's what you want to see. And you can see that nice stiff, when you read a recipe and it says stiff peaks, this
That's a
is what it
stiff peak.
means.
Wow.
Okay?
Now, if you torch that, would that be like what you put on top of a lemon meringue pie?
Yep.
So
Yes.
that's just pretty much
This
meringue
is,
across the board.
this is meringue. You could then add
Can
little
I
mini.
taste it?
If you really want to.
I
I mean,
want to.
you're not going to die or anything like that. It's raw egg whites, yes, but
No, but the whipping, I think, heats them up.
yes, exactly.
Oh, that's delicious.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
So this meringue here, you really could use this for lots of things. I make a meringue cookie that lots of people
Eskimo
love.
pie?
Um,
Isn't that what is it called? Baked Alaska?
Baked Alaska.
Baked Alaska.
You can smother this on a baked cake filled with ice cream, and there's endless possibilities, as Patrick is pointing out, to use this
Meringue.
meringue for. So I'm going to go ahead and bang that off in the bowl. And
I want baked Alaska next week.
he's got lots of requests, guys. You try living with him.
Oh.
But this is why I'm always in the kitchen, always coming up with new ideas and new. You make one recipe and it makes you think of something else. All right, so here we go. So that's done, and what we're gonna do is when that cake is done in a couple of minutes, we're gonna take this marshmallow filling, or topping, I should say, and we're gonna dollop it and spread it on top. And then, actually what we can do now is I already have it measured out, about 1/3 cup of those same baking chips, the 60% cocoa Ghirardelli chips. We're gonna microwave these for about 30 seconds. And again, microwave them, stir them, microwave them, stir them, and just until they're just melted. You don't need to, nuke the crap out of them. You don't want to burn the chocolate because that's very possible in the microwave. So then we'll let that kind of cool to room temp, drizzle that over the meringue before we put it back in the oven. And I'll show you the cool way to get the effect and that cool marbling effect that we have on the meringue. And yeah. I think it'll
3
just be
minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
So we'll come back in a second when the cake is out of the oven and we can start dolloping this on, and we'll go ahead and start eating. Okay, so meringue is done. Cake should be just about ready to come out of the oven so that we can put the meringue on top.
I'm going to try this again.
Yeah. Be careful.
Yeah, it does.
All right.
It holds. Wow.
So
Pretty good. Impressive. I'm impressed.
I'm so glad. I live to impress you. So here we go. So cake is par baked, so it's still got a little bit of a shine on it. Kind of looks like a brownie. And you're going to go ahead and just dollop this, and it doesn't have to be pretty. We're going to kind of be swirling it anyways, but you want a nice thick layer of that meringue. And what's going to happen is when it bakes in the oven, the top outside part of the meringue is going to get this dry out and get this really awesome crispy texture, and the middle is going to be more marshmallowy. And I'm making a mess over here,
It's all
but
right.
that's okay.
I'll clean that up.
So there we go. I'm not usually this messy in the kitchen. And make sure you get all of it. I know it seems like a lot, but it's not really going to do much except expand and then fall back down once you take it out of the oven. So it's not going to spill out the top. So there you go. So there's that. You're all done with that. And now we're going to check on our chocolate and do that for 30 seconds. And we're going to get that mixed up. What are you doing?
Nothing. Nothing.
It's like having a child in the kitchen with you. I gotta touch it. So the pan is hot. It just came out of the oven, so be careful.
It wasn't that hot.
You jumped. So
we're having fun. We're having fun. This is what it's all about when you cook in the kitchen.
So meringue is there. Don't turn your back because your children may be in the kitchen with you.
Forget about airing this on Valentine's Day. This is going to be like Saturday Night Live.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So still not quite there.
Comedy Network.
We're going to do another 30 seconds real quick.
She's slamming microwaves. I mean,
you're making me nervous.
She almost took the door off the hinges there.
So we're going to melt the chocolate, and what we're going to do is we're going to drizzle it on the top, and I'm going to show you a trick. I might have stolen some chopsticks from Legal Seafoods. Oh, sorry.
Broke me.
He's going to get fired.
Broke me.
So I have some chopsticks here, and that is, I actually learned that from
Thief.
The owner of Flour Bakery, Joanne Chang. She makes these meringue cookies at her bakery that they swirl in like a chocolate or a raspberry filling, and they use chopsticks to swirl them in, and that's what gets that like beautiful swirl.
She's super talented.
She's super talented.
You've done some classes though with her, right?
She's I have taken some classes from her, and she's just so down to earth and completely amazing. And some people, when they're that talented, they're almost like stuck up about it. She is willing to share all of her knowledge and is just so sweet. So here we go. We're just gonna swirl a little bit of that all on top. And it doesn't have to be perfect or in any certain way because we're gonna kind of swirl it in anyways. And you can put some bigger globs if you want. Get that in there. All right.
Don't touch that pan, it's hot.
Yeah, it's hot. And I just go ahead and I take my chopsticks and I swirl it around. And that is what creates that beautiful marbling effect. And you don't want to overmix. You kind of want to not mess with it too much.
Wow.
And that's it. And this is going to just go back in the oven. You want to lick that?
Nope.
These are going to go back in the oven.
I'll be back in a second, guys.
You're going to use your oven mitts because the pan is hot. And you're going to up the temperature to 350 now. Original recipe said about 20 minutes. I think with the meringue this thick, I was finding like 25 to 28 minutes was where I was getting that really nice crispy top. And you'll be able to tell it's done when the top is crispy and you can kind of like wrap on it. But the middle is not going to be firm. It's going to still be a little bit wobbly, and that's okay. So back in the oven.
And so Jen, you make, I mean, obviously these wonderful desserts. And I'm not really a great baker. I admit that. I can cook a good brownie, maybe a chocolate chip cookie.
Yep.
I prefer hers though. So where can they, if people need help with this, where can they find some information?
They can, I'm going to go ahead and give the recipe to Revere TV for them to post, and I'll post it with my little
But let's say they need some help. They need to message you.
If you need help, you can message me at Jen, Jenn, at FromScratchLLC.com. So you can message me there at my email. And I'm assuming cooking this beautiful meal,
right.
If anyone had any questions.
Yeah, just email me, pkeef44@comcast.net, and we'll try and help you out. Obviously, not as technical with the ingredients for me, but baking is a different, as we said, a little more scientific. Yep. You have to have the right amount of ingredients. So.
And we're actually kind of in talks with the Revere Rec Center, maybe going to be starting some baking classes. So we might do like a series on cake decorating. We'll probably do some basic beginner baking lessons too. So hopefully for adults and then maybe also for kids too.
That's awesome.
So I think that'll be really great. So stay tuned in the next few months. I already kind of pre-cut a slice of this here. And I got some cute little Valentine sprinkles right over here. And as you can see, you've got that nice, thick, fudgy brownie type cake with that marshmallowy middle and that crispy top. And you can see you want it to have that like, I don't know if you can even hear it, but it's got like a little bit of a...
You should hear it, right?
Yeah, you should hear it. It almost sounds a little hollow. It's crispy, and that's the texture you want when you take it out of the oven. And you just leave it out, cool to room temp. It's hard to wait, but Cool it to room temp. You're going to use the parchment paper that we lined the pan with to just kind of lift it out of the pan. It'll slide right off the parchment paper with a little help from a spatula, and you plate it up really pretty and call it a day.
Right. So we have your meal. This is Valentine's. We have a really, I gotta be honest, really easy to execute surf and turf. All the stuff you can do is you can prep in advance. Jen's
Yep.
gonna show you showed you a wonderful dessert that you can have made in advance.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
you can get your weekend going, or you can get your Valentine's going, or you can just have a nice dinner with your significant other or
Yeah.
your family and loved ones. And
This is
and enjoy.
even like work night. Like throw this in the oven before you leave for work in the morning. Have the dessert done. Prep your stuff the night before, and you can come home and throw this together really quickly. So
I agree. So we hope you enjoyed. This is Cooking with the Keefes, our Valentine's edition, and we want to say thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you to Revere TV, and of course,
Yes.
thank you to our Senior Center who helped sponsor this as well, because we know that we want to give you some more content for the good group over there. Thanks from Patrick, and
thank you. Happy Valentine's Day, and don't forget to reach out if you have any questions.
have a great night. Take care.